Thank you for joining Toastmasters International's 2020 virtual convention. The session will begin in 5 minutes. Thank you for joining Toastmasters International's 2020 virtual convention. The session will begin in 3 minutes. Thank you for joining Toastmasters International's 2020 virtual convention. The session will begin in 1 minute. Toastmasters and guests, it is my pleasure to welcome International Director of Region 6, Distinguished Toastmaster Carol Prahinsky.
Welcome to the Semifinal Speech Contest number 3. Thank you for joining us for this virtual contest. We are thrilled to have Toastmasters and guests from around the world here to cheer on our contestants. In a few minutes, you will hear the speakers who are competing to win a spot in the Toastmasters International World Championship of Public Speaking on Saturday. Competitions begin at the club level, and each of the contestants speaking today proceeded all the way through the region quarterfinals to make it to the semifinal level. All 2020 International Speech Contest participants accepted an additional challenge when the contest was moved online partway through the contest cycle. Like true Toastmasters, they have demonstrated flexibility and adaptability. The 2 top contestants from today's semifinal will proceed to the World Champion of Public Speaking. When a contestant is speaking, all other contests will remain muted with the cameras off. We will observe a minute of silence between the contestants. Copying, streaming, or reproducing this contest is strictly prohibited. Recordings of the contest will be available on the virtual convention platform. Please keep in mind that each contestant selects their own speech topics. Some of the content may be personal in nature and contain language, ideas, or beliefs that can be considered sensitive to some audiences. The chief judge for this contest is Stefano McGee. International McGee, are we ready to proceed?
Madam Contest Chair, the judges are all present and standing by.
Peter Karaganakis, Mr. Wog. Mr. Wog, Peter Karaganakis.
Go home, you bloody wog. Go back to your own country. We don't want you here. That big bully Mark, he's yelling out at me, but I yelled back. I was born in this country. Madam Contest Chair and fellow Toastmasters, can you recall a time in your life when you were the target of rejection and of personal insults simply because of who you are? And when you're 11, it's hard to understand. Now, growing up in Australia and being called a wog is an insult used to describe an unwanted foreigner. But with a long last name like Karagianakis, how can I be anything else but Greek? And because I'm Greek in Australia, I am a wog. We're on the school playground. It's lunchtime recess. Big bully Mark is humiliating me while his friends laugh on. Hey, wog, what kind of smelly looking food is that? Mark, this is good homemade feta cheese pie made by my mom for me. Wog, what kind of a name is Karagianakis? Mark, that is my family name, and I am proud of it. Go home, wog. I'm not a wog, Mark. By the time the teacher on playground duty could separate us, I had a bloody nose and a ripped shirt. But you should have seen the other guy. We're sent straight to the principal's office, handed a bad behavior report, and told to go to our natural science class. We enter old Mr. Fleming's natural science class late, but he doesn't say a word about our timing or our looks. Today, class, we are going to learn about a natural bonding process that takes place in the oyster. Now we can eat the inside of the oyster, and it is soft and salty and tasty. But if we are lucky, an oyster can give us a pearl. But how does it get its pearl? Well, when a tiny grain of sand, a foreign body, enters the oyster, a mysterious process takes place. So let's do some role-playing and find out more. Peter, you be the foreign body. Oh, no, I thought. Labeled again. Imported from Greece. And Mark, you be the oyster. Yes. But wise old Mr. Fleming handed out script cards with dialogue and directions. Peter, begin. When we look at a pearl, we see a precious gem. But if you ask me, the oyster, this means accepting a foreign body into my life for 2 to 3 years. But alone, you're just an oyster. Together, we create a pearl because of our bonding process. Big Bully Mark looked confused, like a fish out of water. He grabbed my hand. Mark's hand felt soft, like the inside of the oyster. Maybe that's why his personality is as hard as an oyster shell, I thought. Wise old Mr. Fleming was right. Oysters, like people, work in mysterious ways. Mr. Fleming then asks the class a question that remains meaningful for me to this day. How do you react to what you see as foreign in your life? The oyster teaches us that an environment of acceptance creates the pearl. Big Bully Mark's face started to look as embarrassingly red as my bloody red nose was on that school playground. Next day, during lunchtime recess, Big Bully Mark asked me an unforgettable question. Hey, Peter, can I get a bite of that feta cheese pie? I was shocked that Big Bully Mark asked for some of my Greek pie, and he called me Peter. From that day on, Mark liked introducing me to his friends as, "This is Mr. W.O.G." When his friends would ask, "What does that mean?" Worth oyster greatness. Guys, let me tell you why the oyster needs the pearl and the pearl the oyster. What wise old Mr. Fleming taught in that class, Big Bully Mark turned into school life. And I learned the meaning of acceptance and tolerance in my own life. Today, as a teacher, I help students from different cultures appreciate the value of an environment of acceptance. I am their oyster, and they, my pearls. Because no matter how foreign or different people seem to you or treat you, you can become the oyster in someone else's life by accepting them. And when others accept us and embrace us, we become like the oyster's pearl. Fellow Toastmasters, looking around the world today, consider for a moment how people are like pearls and develop best in an environment of acceptance. It's like changing people into pearls.
Thank you. We will now take 1 minute of silence. Ash Banajek. I raise my hand. I raise my hand. Ash Banajek.
I have a question. I sit in the IT town hall, surrounded by 400 of my peers, about half the department, as we listen to the department president talk about all the great things we're doing in IT, information technology. Yes, over here. As I sit with my hand held high, I feel that trepidation, that nervous anticipation I used to get as a child when I was about to ask the teacher a difficult question. Toastmasters, today I'm going to talk to you about why I raised my hand. I'm going to talk to you about a seemingly insignificant event that happened as a child that profoundly changed my life's philosophy and how I use this philosophy to this day. But before I can get to here, I need to take you back to my childhood. As a child, I was imbued by my parents and the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers with a profound sense of justice, of fairness, of right, of wrong. And when anything would happen that would wound my sense of justice, I would turn to my mother and I would wail, "But it's not fair." And my mother would calmly turn to me and say, "Ash, life is not fair." And that became my marching tune. Life is not fair. And that is how I marched through my childhood. That was until one day a new policy was announced at school, a zero tolerance policy for violence. And I raised my hand. But what if someone's hurting you and you need to defend yourself? Can't you fight back? The answer was swift and stern. No violence, no exceptions, no more questions. That galled me. I stomped home to my mother, ready but unwilling to get back into my march. My mother listened before replying, "Ash, you are not allowed to start a fight, but you are allowed to finish one. Ask your questions, finish your fights." Life is not fair. Don't start a fight, but you can finish one, oh yeah. I was not a very good dancer as a child. I did not grow out of it. That event changed my marching into dancing. Life was not fair, but I could ask my questions. I could finish my fights. And here, in the IT town hall, I had a question. Thank you. I really appreciate you announcing the new Distinguished Technologist program here in IT. I think it's great that we are recognizing the top tiers of technologists in the department. I noticed, however, the group seemed a bit homogenous. Now, this is my nicest possible way of saying, of the 30 people on that stage, 28 of them are white, and 30 of 30 are men. And I was just wondering what we're doing in the department to ensure diversity at the top tiers. Thank you. The tenor of the room has shifted a little bit. The once 400 pairs of sleepy eyes have now snapped awake and are searing into the back of my skull. And the president's demeanor has changed as well, from one of casual interest to stunned as he began his response. Yes, diversity is important. We have Black people, Hispanics, Asians. Is he just rambling through races? He seems completely unprepared for this question. Did he not realize the lack of estrogen and melanin on stage with him? It's so obvious. It wasn't obvious to him. It wasn't obvious to the people who prepared the program with him. It wasn't on their radar. He started talking about casting a wider net and bringing more people into the company, but he failed to mention what happens when we get here. The need for equal access to coaching, to mentoring, to promotional opportunities, to high-profile projects, which we are so often skipped over. Instead, he said there was a pipeline problem, simply not enough people in technology of diverse background, before saying, "Does that answer your question?" It did not. But I could feel the heat creeping up my neck and flushing into my cheeks, and I just wanted it to be over. So I said, and this is a direct quote, "Yeah." Toastmasters, did you ever have a question? A question that you knew if you asked it, there could be trouble, but you have to ask it, right? As I stood up to leave that day, I was approached by several people thanking me for saying out loud what they felt inside. But that was not the universal sentiment. Others said, "What were you trying to do? Were you trying to diminish their accomplishment? Were you trying to make him look bad? Were you trying to start a fight?" I do not start fights, but I do finish them. In the months that followed, I talked to peers and managers and executives, and we made a plan, and we started enacting that plan in the painful plod toward progress. But I cannot let it slip from their radars. I have to keep asking those questions. I have to keep raising my hand in this continuous fight for fairness. Though it may feel more comfortable to march to the stable beat of the status quo, some days you must dance. I ask you, what questions do you have? What would happen if you asked those questions? But more importantly, what would happen if you do not? When the time comes, will you raise your hand? Toastmaster.
Thank you. We'll take 1 minute of silence for the judges to mark their ballots. Furzi Gotuako, the dark Furzi Gotuako.
Many moons ago, in a nameless village far, far away, there was a fire. And on one side of that fire was the dark. And out of the dark came the villagers. And they came to the fire seeking comfort and wisdom. On the other side of that fire was the village elder. And it was his responsibility to take that fire and inspire others with it. And he was bald, and he was Chinese, and he had a cat. Fellow Toastmasters, contest manager, when I first joined Toastmasters, I wanted to be that person who could take the fire and inspire others. But my story tonight is about what happens when that fire goes out. And in 2019, my fire went out. Now, I know many of you are thinking, well, 2020 is not going so well either. But in 2019, I had my own personal social distancing. It starts out at work. I used to be a teacher that students loved. But in 2019, I was an administrator. And as an administrator, you got to drop the hammer. I mean, kids would do things that were wrong, and I would have to suspend them. One kid didn't like that very much. So he stood out there in the lobby of the school and said, "Nobody likes you," in front of everybody. He said it twice. All the kids were there with their phones. "Nobody likes you." I'm on their Snapchat. I'm famous. I know what you're thinking. Furzi, that's work. Go home. Get a life. So I did. I went home to my cat and my wife of 22 years, who decided that she didn't want to be with me anymore and had found somebody else. Friends, have you ever been in the dark? You can scream and you can yell, but when you're in the dark, nobody can hear you. And it scares the cat. So what do you do when you're not happy at work and you're not happy at home? You go to Toastmasters. There I am at the club meeting, and one of the officers comes up to me and says, "Furzi, I know you want to be a public speaker, so I've set up this training at a Fortune 500 company. I want you to do it with me." I said, "Setma, just tell me what you want me to say and what you want me to do, and I'll do it." And she says, "No, I've already set it up. Now it's your turn to shine." And then she left. Shine? What does she mean, shine? Was that like a bald joke? I'm picturing some kind of wax on, wax off situation. But I did it. And what happened at the training is nowhere near as important as the fact that in my moment of darkness, somebody reached out to help me. At another meeting, another officer comes to me, "Furzi, I think you ought to be a mentor." "No, Laura, I can't be a mentor. I can't even get my cat to listen to me." "Furzi, it's a cat. It's not going to listen to anybody." And so I did everything they said. I took a mentee and I helped them with their pathways and their icebreaker and their speeches. And I loved it. I felt like a teacher again. I started to feel that fire inside of me. And so I took another mentee and another protege. And then I even went to another club. And when I was there, I saw this young lady shaking so badly. She was going to be the Toastmaster evening. It was her first time. And so before the meeting started, while everyone was meandering around, I said, "Come up here with me and just stand here and know that everyone in the room wants you to do well. When you're ready, let me know." She nodded. "You're going to shine." That's when I realized I don't need to be in the spotlight to inspire somebody. Why settle for 5 to 7 minutes with a 30-second grace period when I could have 5 to 7 months as a mentor? I also learned one other thing. Just like the stars in the sky that we can't see in the daytime, we shine brightest when it's dark. It's 2020 now. I still got the cat. And I still have my demons. But I'm not scared anymore. because I've got my fire and I'm never gonna let it go out. But my friends, this speech is about so much more than me. There are so many people out there, friends and family that we know who are in their dark and they're scared. And we can go to them and we can say to them, don't be scared. Always remember, it's in the dark where you shine brightest. It's in the dark where you shine brightest. Contest chair.
Thank you. We will now take 1 minute of silence. Mas Mahathir bin Mohammed, the Muchai. The Muchai, Mas Mahathir bin Mohammed.
I'm of a mixed race, known as a Muchai. My father is Malay, darker skin, native to Malaysia. He named me after a Malaysian politician, Mahathir Mohamad. My mother, she's Chinese, and she gave me my face. The problem is, in Malaysia, my Malay name and my Chinese face, they just don't match. What's worse, my name is a politician's name, and that causes a lot of trouble. Imagine a Chinese boy in America with a last name Trump. Exactly. And the biggest trouble for me was fitting in. Contest chair and friends, do you sometimes find it hard to fit in? At the age of 18, I was accepted for a college scholarship, but I was rejected by my college mates. The Malay students would say, why not hang with those who look like you? The Chinese students would say, you can't speak Chinese well. Why not hang with those who speak English? But those who spoke English, they were considered rich or cool. I'm none of that. And they'd say, by the way, Mahathir, nobody needs another politician. I was rejected, ridiculed. And because I couldn't fit in, I hated who I was, and I struggled with low self-esteem. I needed help. So I went to my dad to complain. I said, Dad, why can't I fit in? And why do you give me a politician's name? My dad looked at me and he said, son, you're born unique. Mahathir means greatness. Choose to be yourself, because those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. I couldn't agree with that, because to be myself meant lifelong rejection. I thought to myself, that won't work. I needed another solution. And that's when I heard an inner voice saying, Mahathir, if you want to fit in, you need to be a cool guy, because everybody accepts a cool guy. So I started to rebrand and did exactly what the cool guys did. I gelled my hair, and started to wear really low pants. I even told people to call me Michael because trust me, in my country, this face looks more like a Michael than a Mahathir. When I changed my looks and my name, I started fitting in. Now, it wasn't long before I met and joined the coolest guy on campus. His name, Daniel. Picture this, social butterfly, ladies magnet, really good looking dude. If Chris Evans had an Asian twin, that's Daniel. Now, fitting in with Daniel, it felt awesome because we go partying, we go drinking, we go smoking, we go clubbing, and this went on for months. But deep down, I didn't want to do those things. But to stay cool and feel accepted, I had to. So slowly, my lifestyle changed, my friends changed, and my exam grades also changed. For the worse. For an entire semester, I failed my exams. Now one morning, I'm on my laptop. I saw an email from the Education Ministry with the CC to my dad saying, "Dear Mahathir, due to your poor grades, your scholarship will be terminated." When I got home, I saw my dad, and I saw disappointment in his eyes as he said, "Son, why?" And I said, "Dad, you said that I'm unique. You said my name means greatness, but people still rejected me. I hated the feeling of rejection, so I've changed." Then my dad said, "Son, I too was rejected when your mother and I got together. I wanted to change who I was so that people would accept our relationship. But I realized that rejection will follow you just like a shadow. But it stops when you choose to be yourself. Because those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. The question is, son, when will you stop minding about what others think of you?" My dad helped me realize something. That those who mind my looks, my name, and me, they shouldn't matter to me. And those who matter to me, they wouldn't mind the real me because they love me wholeheartedly, just like my dad. All this time, I sought acceptance from outside, which blinded me on the uniqueness I had inside. A Machai Mahathir like me is unique. How many Machais do you know in your life? Well, today, you've met one. And paired with my political name, I'd say that's pretty unforgettable, isn't it? That day onwards, I stopped trying to be cool. I stopped trying to feel accepted. And I stopped trying to fit in. And I went back to studying and being me. And because of my dad, I've never been more proud to be that Machai Mahathir since. My friends, you and I, we have something that makes us unique. Maybe it's our size, maybe it's the way we laugh, or maybe we are born with a unique birthmark. And we never needed to hide or pretend. All we needed to do was to choose to be ourselves. Because we are awesome just the way we are. Wouldn't you agree? So starting today, don't matter and don't mind what others think of you, because what truly matters is embracing your uniqueness. Contest chair.
Thank you. 1 minute of silence. Sherwood Jones. Ignore the suit. Ignore the suit, Sherwood Jones.
I had just ordered my favorite fast food breakfast, small coffee, 2 creams, 1 sweet and low. And I had my usual $1.30 in my hand, ready to present to the cashier, who suddenly looked up and said, 75 cents. Puzzled, I examined my receipt, only to determine that I had been lovingly awarded the senior discount. Madam Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters, and fellow unwilling recipients of the senior discount. Age is the newest 4-letter word. Oh, we know what ours is, but we don't like to write it, we don't like to say it, we don't like to remember it. The way I see it, we have 2 options. Option 1, denial. What? Me? Getting older? Oh, no, there is no way. I'm not ready for bingo and shuffleboard and cruises and Florida and Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune and Cracker Barrel. Option 2, acceptance. It sure is fun being old and incontinent. Besides, got all them nice senior activities. Bingo, Florida, Cracker Barrel. What's that? My attitude towards the situation? I am somewhat okay with my AGE. However, there is this one individual, this absolute jerk, who every time I see him says something wonderful like, "Oh, looking a little older since the last time we saw you, huh? I like those new sunglasses. They hide your crow's feet. Ah, you used to be so handsome." This master of tact has become my worst enemy, and his name is Mirror. Oh, don't get me wrong, he used to be my best friend back when I was a strapping young stud. But as soon as I started to get older, he began to lie. Complete dishonesty. I would send him one image and he would send me back a completely different one. I mean, that's not me. Well, if it isn't, then what is me? Are we just a slowly decaying, organized collection of flesh and bone? No. We are a soul, a spirit, a spark that just happens to be wearing a meat suit. And there's only so much that you can do with a suit. You can iron out the wrinkles, take in the waist a little bit, slather on Maybelline, CoverGirl, Rogaine, but it's still just a suit. Do you think Albert Einstein, when his hair was turning white, anybody cared? Did physicists stop listening to Stephen Hawking when his entire body revolted against him? If your spark shines brightly enough, people will not care what it is wearing. The evidence is everywhere. Betty White, Pope Francis, the Dalai Lama, Mick Jagger, Paul McCartney, Willie Nelson, Bernie Sanders, and Colonel Sanders. Face it, baby, gray is the new black. But it's not the gray on our heads that makes us distinguished. It is what is underneath it. Years of accumulated knowledge and wisdom that can only accrue over time with age. Now, I realize that some of you may belong to Camp Denial or Camp Acceptance, but if I may, I would like to propose a third option. Ignore the suit. Oh, sure. Keep it clean. Keep it healthy. Keep it exercised. But don't kid yourself. It's still just a suit. It will go out of style. The colors will fade. It will require patching. It will get old. So ignore it. Instead, concentrate on the person who is wearing your suit. Keep them thinking, keep them educated, keep them loved. Remind that person inside of you that they can do anything they want to because age is no longer an excuse. The weakness of the body outside has nothing to do with the strength of the spark inside. Age is an illusion. I know that you, at one time or another, have looked right into that devil mirror and seen some thing, some pimples, some wrinkles, some gray hair, some extra 10 pounds, some imperfection that, if only for a moment, completely decimated your self-esteem. However, I say, why obsess over the shell of the oyster when the pearl is on the inside? In that mirror, see the person. Ignore the suit. Madam Contest Chair.
Thank you. We'll take 1 minute of silence. Kwong Yu Yang. Taxi. Taxi. Kwong Yu Yang.
It's 2010, and I'm standing on the side of the road next to this lamppost in Guangzhou, China. I'm looking at a taxi, and I'm looking at two women. And the only thought that pops into my head is, I'm not going to let this happen again. You see, 2 weeks earlier, I was standing in the same spot trying to catch a taxi on a Friday night. Now, trying to catch a taxi on a Friday night in a city with 14 million people, it's like trying to get toilet paper during the pandemic. It's bloody impossible. Now, usually I would just take the subway, but that day I needed a taxi because I needed to get to a restaurant, because I needed to go see a girl for our first date. And so I'm standing on the side of the road, waving my arms frantically, trying to get a taxi, praying and hoping. And after 5 minutes, I see a taxi slow down right in front of me. And I think to myself, today is my lucky day. I put my hands down to the door and I look up. I see the 6-year-old boy open the door for me. He jumps into the taxi. His mother jumps into the taxi after him. They close the door and they drive away. What the? Did they just steal my taxi? That was so rude. But what can I do? I can only wait for another taxi. And so I stand there and I start waving my hands frantically. And I do this for 15 minutes. No taxis. But then I see a taxi really far away. And so I start running towards it. I am like the Flash. I get to the taxi. I put my hands out to the door. I look up. And it's the Hulk. He's big, strong, and ugly. He looks me in the eyes and he says, he opens the door, he jumps in the taxi, he closes the door, and he drives away. What the? Did he just steal my taxi? That was so mean. But what can I do? I can only wait for another taxi. And so I stand on the side of the road and I stick out my hands and I look beside me and I notice standing next to me now is this little old middle-aged Chinese lady with her grocery shopping. I can tell straight away that she is a professional taxi stealer. Why? See, I'm standing here and she's standing on this side of me. Taxis are coming in that direction. So if a taxi stops in front of us, she is in a better position. So I look at her and I walk around her. She looks at me, she walks around me. I walk around her, she walks around me, I walk around her. I don't believe it. And I do the only thing I can think of. And I walk 20 meters down the road because I know she won't follow me with her grocery shopping. And so I get to my spot, I put my hands out and I see a taxi drive straight past me. And it stops right where I was originally standing. The middle-aged Chinese lady jumps into the taxi, she closes the door, and she drives away. What the? Are you kidding me? I've had my taxi stolen by a little boy, a muscle man, and a wrinkly lady. And I start yelling to myself, Quang, you are getting the next taxi no matter what. I don't care if it's a boy, a man, a grandma, I don't care. If you need to push someone out of the way, if you need to be mean, if you need to be rude, do it. And I look up. Standing next to me now is this beautiful young lady in high heels. And I have to remind myself, no matter what. The high-heeled lady sticks out her hands and she starts waving. So I stick out my hand and I start waving. We're both waving for 5 minutes. And then I see a taxi turn the corner and it starts slowing down in front of me. And I think to myself, hallelujah. I put my hands down to the door and it moves 2 meters more. The high-heeled lady opens the door, she gets into the taxi. And I am about to explode. I'm about to scream. But the high-heeled lady asks, where are you going? Maybe I can give you a lift. And my anger and frustration melt. 20 minutes later, she drops me off at my destination. I am glowing with happiness and I thank her profusely. And as I get out of the taxi, I say to her, how much do I owe you for the taxi? And she just smiles. And then she says, don't worry. You get the next one. She closes the door and she drives away. Now, all of this happened 2 weeks ago, which is why I'm now standing on the side of the road next to this lamppost, looking at a taxi, looking at 2 women, and saying to myself, I'm not going to let this happen again, because I know I'm not going to be that lucky. I rush to the taxi, I put my hands on the door, I open the door, and I look back, and I see those 2 women, and they're standing there just waving their hands. I jump into the taxi, and I think about the high-heeled lady. I look back at those 2 women, and I smile. 20 minutes later, I drop those 2 women off at their destination. They are glowing with happiness. They thank me profusely, and as they get out of the taxi, they ask me, "How much do we owe you for the taxi?" And I just smile. Because I now know that kindness is simple. Kindness can be shared, and kindness doesn't need a reason. And so I look at those two ladies and I just say, don't worry. You get the next one. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take 1 minute of silence. Carrie Verrocchio, The Power of Choice. The Power of Choice, Carrie Verrocchio.
How many of you have siblings? Raise your hands. Now keep them raised if you actually like them. You can put your hands down. Growing up, I had two brothers, Billy and Timmy, though they preferred to be called Bill and Tim. I was the youngest, I was the princess. And though at times my brothers and I could fight, most of the time we had amazing fun. And we could have fun at any time, with any place, and with any object. Even as a little girl, I had a distant vision of the three of us, older, sitting on one of our front porches, coffee in hand, grandchildren running around, and we would be reliving memories of our childhood. Like when we would take my dad's oversized t-shirts, put them on, shove pillows up inside of them to give ourselves big bellies. My idea. Then we would jump up and down on my mom's furniture. My idea. And we would be singing, well, he's bad, bad, Leroy Brown, baddest man in the whole town. We weren't allowed to cuss. We were required to leave that word out. We would sing that song, drop to the floor in laughter, and get up and do it all over again. As a little girl, I could see that vision. It was so real to me. I could touch it. I could feel it. I could smell the coffee in our cups. I could hear the laughter of our grandchildren as they begged us to tell that story just one more time. And then my oldest brother, Bill, was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And when he was just 48 years old, my dream of that vision ever becoming a reality died when he died. A few months after Bill died, I had a dream. In this dream, I walked into a restaurant, and sitting with his back to me was a gentleman. And I knew immediately that that was my brother Bill. The way he sat with his shoulders squared and his legs crossed, and the way the crowd leaned into him and hung on every word he said, I knew it was Billy. And I kept trying to get his attention. I'm poking at his shoulder and calling his name, but he was completely ignoring me. And I got more and more frustrated and more angry. And finally I went and I stood in front of him and I demanded of him, Billy Burger, why won't you talk to me? I just want to invite you to our house for dinner, Billy. I miss you. Why won't you talk to me? From his seated position, Bill looked up at me and he said, because I died. Don't you remember? I died. I'm only here to give you a message. Life is short, little sister. Choose wisely. Life is short, little sister. Choose wisely. That dream, those words changed my life. You see, just before Bill died, I made a promise to him that I would spend the rest of my life making a difference in the lives of others. You have a gift, little sister, Bill told me. Promise me you will use it. And I had promised him. But up until that point in time, I had done nothing to fulfill that promise that I'd made to my brother. That dream started a fire in my heart. I enrolled in courses on how to become an effective life coach, a transformation coach, a forgiveness coach. I enrolled in courses on how to become a better speaker. I joined Toastmasters. I started to work with clients. I started to pour into the lives of others. That journey has spanned nearly 10 years. And it has brought me here to you today to give you this message from my brother. Life is short, my friends. Choose wisely. You see, we think we have all the time in the world to make better choices. But the fact is, we have today. In fact, we have this moment. This breath, that's all you are guaranteed. You are not even guaranteed this evening. Life is short, my friends. Choose wisely. What if today is the last day you have to make any choice at all? Would it impact the way you made your choices? There is so much power in every single choice that we make. My brother Bill taught me how to live while he was dying. He had no time for petty drama. He started on a journey of becoming healthier. He lived life according to his goals and his dreams. Some of the things he would ask you if you were here, if that fight with your loved one is the last words you'll ever have with them, would you choose the fight or would you choose to reconcile? If you could see all of the diseases headed straight at you as a direct result of your choice of fast food and soda and cigarettes and overconsumption of alcohol, would you choose those things or would you make healthier choices? If you could see all of your missed opportunities neatly laid out in front of you, alphabetized on a spreadsheet, would you continue to shrink back in fear or would you seize those opportunities and change your life? If you could see how amazing life is when you live life according to your purpose, your dreams, instead of doing what everyone else says you should be doing, would you start saying yes to yourself or would you continue living that life that isn't even yours? There is power in every choice you make. Researchers at Cornell University tell us that we make over 200 choices a day on food alone, and over 35,000 remotely conscious decisions. That's a lot of opportunity to make wiser choices. Can you imagine the power in your life if you started choosing water over soda, kindness over anger, opportunity over fear, love over the fight? What if you acknowledge today that this is your day to make a difference? How many lives would you change? How many mountains would you move? How much more powerful would your own life be? In the words of my brother, life is short, my friends. Choose wisely. You have today, this moment. There's power in your choices. Life is short. Choose wisely. Better than an old King Kong, meaner than a junkyard dog. I love you, Billy. Madam Chair.
Thank you. Judges, please mark your ballots. We will be silent until all of the ballots have been submitted. We will now interview the contestants in speaking order. Peter Karaganakis. Where are you from? What district are you representing? And what is the name of your club?
Thank you, Madam Contest Chair. My name, as you said, is Peter Karagianakis. I am competing out of District 109, and I'm a member of two clubs. The first club is Kifisia Toastmasters Club in Athens, and the other is Glyfada Toastmasters Club, also in Athens.
Thank you. Where do you find the inspiration for your topics?
Well, that's a great question. I must say I have lived quite a full life. I was actually born in Sydney, Australia, the child of immigrants. And I lived my formative years there. And I've also lived in various countries throughout the world. And I've rubbed shoulders against various realities. And those realities have pictured my emotions, in my feelings that inspire me, that I draw from to create the speeches that I like to share with the world and leave them with a heartfelt message for the mind and for the heart.
Thank you. Banajek. Where are you from? What district are you representing? And what is the name of your club?
I'm living currently in Omaha, Nebraska in the United States. I'm from clubs 229, which was named Barry originally because it is the 229th club, as well as Rail Talkers Club, where I work. And I'm in District 4, or sorry, District 24, Region 4.
Okay, thank you. Ash, how did you come up with your speech title?
How did I come up with my speech title? I was trying to figure out what the main point of my speech was and what my main call to action was. When I was thinking about it, it was really about encouraging people to stand up, speak up, raise their hand. But I raise my hand is a vague enough call to action that I thought it might be an interesting pull for the title. So I decided to go with that.
Thank you. Furzi, where are you from, your district, and what is the name of your club?
I am from Fort Worth, Texas. I belong to District 25. My home club is the Afterburners Club. I belong to two other ones, Tip Top as well as Off the Cuff, but Afterburners is the one I claim as home.
Furzi, how has Toastmasters impacted your life?
Thank you for that question. Toastmasters has changed my life. It's given me an opportunity to share my talents with others. It's given me an opportunity to learn from people who are great at this craft of communication. And it's given me a group of people of like mind that I've never really had before. It's everything.
Thank you. Mahathir bin Mohammed. Where are you from? What district are you representing? And what is the name of your club?
Thank you so much, Carol. I am from Malaysia, proud Malaysian, and from District 51. And my home club is MII, which is founded by my parents.
What made you join Toastmasters?
I can refer that to the previous question you asked me. My parents. They forced me to join Toastmasters since I was 5 years old. And I hated it back then, but I soon found out the passion and the feeling of camaraderie and the feeling of connectedness and wanting to learn from other people. I think that's one thing that I really joined Toastmasters for. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sherwood Jones. Sherwood, where are you from? What district are you representing? And what is the name of your club or clubs?
am representing District 5, representing Shreveport Toastmasters, and I'm also an online member of Sundays by the Sea Toastmasters in Los Angeles, and I've been a member there for 26 years.
Okay, and are you located, where are you located?
I am located in Nacogdoches, Texas.
Thank you. Sherwood, what was your motivation for competing?
I think that competition forces us to look at our presentations and our speeches with a magnifying glass. Word choice, organization, all the aspects that are there. So not only is it an exercise in crafting a speech very, very carefully, but it's very enjoyable because of the camaraderie as well as the adrenaline that's produced.
Thank you. Kwong Yu Yang, where are you from? What district are you representing? And what is the name of your club?
I am currently in Australia. I'm representing a district which is 118, which is in China. And the clubs I am a part of are Guangzhou Evaluation and Mentoring, Guangzhou Advanced Toastmasters, and ACCA Guangzhou.
Thank you. What advice would you give to members who have never competed in a speech contest?
My piece of advice is just to give it a go. Just have some fun. It's not about the winning. It's just being part of it, going through the process, and then learning through that process. So give it a go. It's not that stressful, and it's a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Carrie Verrocchio, where are you from? What district are you representing? And what is the name of your club?
I am from Binghamton, New York, and District 65, and the name of the club is Leaders and Learners.
Thank you. Carrie, what has been your most memorable experience in Toastmasters?
This one. This has been my most memorable experience. I'm a newbie to Toastmasters. I joined just a little over a year ago and decided to jump in with both feet and take advantage of everything that was offered. So doing this and then taking on the role of president for the club this year. But this today is my most memorable moment. Thank you.
Thank you. The two top contestants from this semifinal will advance to the World Championship of Public Speaking this Saturday, August 29th. Winners from this contest and all other semifinal contests will be announced after the completion of semifinal number 4 on Wednesday, August 26, 2020 at approximately 7:30 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. The announcement will be posted on Toastmasters' website, on the Toastmasters International Virtual Convention platform, and on Toastmasters' social media channels. Contestants progressing to the World Championship of Public Speaking will be available for a virtual finalist showcase from 2:30 to 3 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time on August 27th. Thank you all for joining us today for this semifinal. The contest is adjourned.